the track hits your eardrum like a slug to your chest. Back a vest for your Jimmy in the city of sex. We in that sunshine state where the bomb ass him be. The state where you never find a dance floor empty and pimp speed. On a mission for them greens. Lean, mean, money making machines, serving fiends. I've been in the game for 10 years making rap tunes. Ever since Honeys was wearing Sassoon, now it's 95 and they clock me and watch me diamond shining, looking like a Rob Liberace. It's all good, from Diego to the Bay. Your city is the bomb if your city making pay. Throw up a finger if you feel the same way. Straight putting it down for California, yeah. West Coast.
Welcome back to the Coach's Corner. It's been a while, but we back. Coach Moore, ready to do this thing today?
I'm ready to go, man. I'm ready to go, man. I got the goal. I'm ready to do something with the goal, man.
You ready to do something? Tell me about that goal you're wearing, Coach.
Okay, man. So I told you before that I coached with USA Football. I actually coached the women's league this year. And so it's 11-on-11 women football, man. So all you out there that asking, this is the lingerie league. It's not the lingerie league, although some of those women could be in the lingerie league. And a lot of them shouldn't be in the lingerie league, if you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. But we went to Canada, man. We played against 6 other different countries. There was Mexico, obviously Canada, Australia, Finland, and then us. And so we was able to come home with the gold, man. We was able to come out of there and win a gold medal. And one of the things I'm telling people is football is growing, and it's growing on a rate where it's becoming more international. And the NFL, as well as youth sports, they want to have a global presence, and a lot of that has to do with the concussion aspect of it. We're losing 10% of youth football in America, and so you got to find a way to be able to kind of funnel in other people to be able to play that sport. So great experience. I tell everybody that if you get an opportunity to go to Canada, Vancouver, probably the most beautiful,
visually beautiful.
Yeah, the terrain. Beautiful place, man. I mean, the people are awesome. They love Americans. They can't stand Trump. And it was funny because I had a lady come up to me and she was upset. She was mad. She was like, "Are you a Trump supporter?" I said, "I don't know no black people that are Trump supporter unless they got paid."
Except Omarosa.
That's
about it.
Unless they got paid.
Yeah, right. Ben Carson and Omarosa.
Yeah, they got two.
Yeah, 212% of Americans, we got two.
Man, you get paid, then you're going to support, make that money right. So, but like I said, man, great experience. I told you next time I come back, I was going to bring the gold, man, and, it's a great experience for me. I never thought that I would have an opportunity to win a gold medal coaching football, and then especially coaching women. And great band of women. I had guys ask me all the time, like, what's the difference of coaching women versus men? And there is no difference. The only difference I would say is because they haven't played the game as long as men have played the game, they're a lot more hungrier, and as far as them teaching them how to play the game, a lot more receptive to coaching, and and that, like I said, that was probably the greatest experience for me, is seeing somebody that was passionate about the game and didn't have the ego. We didn't have the ego aspect of it, so it was a great experience.
Tell me this, Coach, because the majority of the people watching, myself included, have no idea what it is or what it feels like to win a gold medal. So the minute that you knew that you guys were going to win it, what did that feel like?
Man, it was crazy because, and I give hats off to Canada because we ended up playing Canada in the championship. And it's funny because even in the men's game, I coach international football here at Cowboy Stadium, and it's the best high school kids against the best high school kids or middle school kids in Canada versus the United States, and which are really the two countries that have been playing the game the longest. So it was almost fitting that we played against Canada.
Right.
But on the aspect of how did it was a little surreal because I had just never been in an environment where there was playing against a different country, right? And so there was so much support from the USA, and you had Mexico there, and Australia there, and Finland there. It was just almost a surreal feeling once I found out, like, man, I'm gonna have a gold medal, and it was a pleasure because I knew it was because of those girls and those women, their hard work and what they put in it to actually win that game. So it was, like I said, a great experience, man. I wouldn't change it for anything, and it's a different experience because I've had an opportunity to win, championships with, my fellow teammates and things like that. But it was a very, very different experience, but a great experience, and I wouldn't change it for the world, bro.
What was the party like after?
Confusing.
A confusing party? You got to elaborate on that.
So, okay, all right. So, just like in, women's basketball, the perception, right?
Right.
So most of the women are, not heterosexual women. And so being in a party where there's all these women, and I would say in women's basketball, I would say maybe 70%, or I would close to say 70-60% of the women in women's basketball, are lesbian.
That's a show topic for us one day.
Yeah, that definitely is. I would, and I would love to bring some people on the show to interview, and I'm definitely going to do that. I would definitely like to bring some of the girls up because actually, the team that won, it's called I think it's the IFAA or IWFA, and I could be getting that wrong. But there is 63 teams of women across the United States, and they play a championship. And the championship was won this year by the Dallas Elite.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the Dallas team won it, and we had probably about 3 girls that were from our team, the international or the USA team that won it. But like I said, it was interesting because you got that many people, you got these women, they're dancing, but as a guy, I just felt out of place. You know what I'm saying? Like,
a little confused.
Yeah, I was confused. I was confused, and it was just a confusing situation. But they partied, they butt off, man. They had a great time, and it was really just partying with the coaches and the guys that we won with. That was really fun, and like I said, a great experience.
Well, as you guys know, Coach Moore and I, when V-Dub and Coach Moore get together, it's really a conversation.
Yes.
We put it out there. I think you're streaming on Facebook right now. It just says, let's talk, because that's about everything that we do is revolve around just a good conversation. So we're going to have a good time. Some of the topics we're going to try to cover today, interracial dating. We want to talk about some of the money contracts in sports.
Yep. We got some things going on. I know for a while there, you got a lot of NFL guys upset that, Steph was able to kind of get that money. And, we just want to talk about it, man, because I think there is you hear people say that, okay, NFL and because of the physicality of the sport, they should be getting more money. But you got to understand, on the NFL roster, there's what?
53.
15 on the NBA roster, 15 guys on the NBA roster versus 53. So it's going to be hard to break that bank, but it can be done.
I agree.
It can be done.
Because the television contracts, as far as NFL money goes, is out of this world too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The billions and billions that these guys are putting in.
And it can be done.
And the owners are pocketing, man. The owners are flush with cash.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the money contracts, the difference in those two leagues. We're going to talk about marijuana in sports and society.
In sports. And the reason I brought that up, man, is because I don't know if you watched the show Ballers.
I do not. I watched it like the first 3 episodes.
Okay, so
with Denzel Washington's son and The Rock.
Yeah. So great show. They did an episode about it, and it was so funny because I got an ex-teammate of mine, and he's out of Denver. And the crazy thing about it is, you have these companies, and it's really not about getting high. It's really about pain management. And so I want to talk a little bit about that because, you know, I look at it as, you know, I'm a conspiracy theorist by trade. You know, I'm always thinking behind the scenes.
Okay.
And I look at playing the sport, and when I was playing the sport and being hurt and being injured and coming off of injuries and the drugs that they prescribe. So in my mind, it's like, okay, it's okay to use your drugs, but it's not okay to use these other drugs.
Save it, Coach.
You know
We're going to get into it. We're going to get into it. We're going to get into it. And if we have time, we're going to talk a little bit about the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
We had some things going on as far as one of the athletes here in Dallas.
Zeke the Freak, man. My man Zeke the Freak, man. I'm sad that it happened, but the reason trust me, I am all in support of punishing somebody that is a part of domestic violence, especially against women. Mm-hmm. But there is a double-edged sword that I would love to talk about because I think athletes and with my nonprofit DYSA, when you get an opportunity, you can jump on the website DYSA-Texas.org. That's DYSA-TX.org. But there's a double-edged sword once you become an athlete and become successful at becoming an athlete, and some of those pitfalls that I think need to be discussed.
Let's power through, Coach. I know we run a little bit behind on the show, so let's power through. Let's jump in. Let's talk about some of the topics. We're going to start off interracial dating.
Interracial dating. You want to go straight there?
Well, see,
hey, I thought you were going to say that one for last.
We can save it, but what I was thinking is because this interracial dating is going to pop us into the Zeke because we know that was some of the problem that Zeke had is that he was doing a little interracial dating.
Yes.
So I think one going to feed into the other. So
well, I mean, the reason I wanted to bring that topic up is because I think that there is a very big outline in interracial dating, especially in today's society. It's more acceptable. I grew up in a time in an era where, it was acceptable. I used to always say this, you can date a white girl, but you better not hold her hand in the mall, So we live in a time now where I think it's becoming more socially acceptable among society. But I think there is still an issue because as a black man, and now I have daughters, right?
Right.
And so how would I kind of wanted to turn that mirror on me and say, how would I feel if, my daughter came home with a white guy? How would I feel?
Let's talk about it, Coach. How would you feel?
And honestly, it would be interesting because I'm glad I'm not at that point yet. But I think I would be a little shocked. I would be shocked and want to find out, what is this guy bringing to the table to be dating my little black queen? And I think.
Would you take it personal?
I don't think I would take it personal. I would just want to know the whys.
See, I might take it a little personal. I'm gonna be honest.
Tell me why.
Because I would have thought for my little girl, I have one too, that I was a good example of what a good black man can be.
Okay.
And so being that example, most women look for people that remind them of their fathers, I believe.
So you think it would be a slight against you?
I would take it a little personal. Now, I might not say anything, but then too, I just might. If you know me, I probably would. I don't know if I could bite my tongue. We might have a little sidebar.
So I'm going to ask you this then. Okay, so, and I always said there's definitely two types of Caucasian people, right? You have, and I've been friends with both. You have the straight lace, and they're white, and that's what they do, and they're doing their own thing, and that's their personality. And then you have the other ones that have been around black folks, and they have, I would say, kind of taken on that cultural dynamic. Would you feel more comfortable if she braided a white dude, came in the house with dreads, 4 goals at the bottom?
See, that might upset me more. That might upset me.
Why?
But I understand what you're saying because I do know I had friends that grew up in my neighborhood. I mean, they were white boys who, to be honest with you, they never knew a different culture because all they grew up with were black people.
Right.
And so, and the crazy thing is we would refer to him. If his name was John, we call him White Boy John.
Yeah, we had White Mike.
White Mike, yeah.
I had a couple White Mikes. We had some White Bobs. I mean, we definitely had the nicknames. And I think even when I was, because I'll be honest, I've dated all across the spectrum. I did not really like the white black girls with the short haircut with the big hoop earrings. I just didn't. I was like, I can get that at the black club.
See, but what I was alluding to was the fact that if you had the dreads and you immersed in the rap music and you had the 4 goals across your teeth, at some point, I think you can overdo it. I think some of these white people trying so hard to copy our culture go to an extreme and kind of forget where they traditionally came from and just want to be so much a part of us that I can't even justify it.
Is it almost the same adage to say that when, let's say a
Ben Carson is too white.
He's too white.
He's too white. You're a black man. It seems like you'd have forgot that you were a black man somewhere along the way.
You're trying to
O.J. Simpson. Yeah. O.J. Simpson forgot that he was a black man somewhere along the way.
And see what that'll do.
Oh, well, they'll remind you that you were a black man, no doubt about it.
But do white people get reminded? Or is it more socially acceptable? And that's what I'm saying. Is it become more socially acceptable for when we're talking about dating, a black guy to date a white woman versus a white woman to date a black guy? Well, there seems to be, and I think it seems to be a catch-22 for us.
Okay, so what we're saying is it okay for the white man?
Is it more socially acceptable? Like when you see a white guy with a black woman, a very attractive.
She always attractive. Whenever
she always fine.
But if you see that black dude with a white woman, about 50% of the time, she toe up from the floor. You know I'm telling you.
So the white people are like, you can have.
Nobody was drafting that.
Yeah, no, we ain't got no problem.
The only person interested in that is Usher. We good.
Yeah. So, and then so we'll go with that. So when we see an attractive white woman with a attractive black brother, do we look at it as she's a gold digger?
I think we're more accepting, and this is probably something that is inherently culturally wrong, and I will tell you that it's wrong before I even say it, that when you're with someone that's attractive, I think we're more readily accepting, number one, because you look at it and you say, well, I understand.
Oh, yeah, I see why you got it, though. I see why.
We look at iced tea with cocoa back in the day when we were kids, and we went, okay, we'll take that one.
Yeah, we'll take that one.
But I do believe it is more socially acceptable for the white man to date a black woman. But I think that is because...
You mean a black man to date a white woman?
No, I think it's more socially acceptable for a white man to date a black woman. Black women can get with white men. But when we get with white women, there seems to be this underlying slap in the face that black women just... They want.
Black men have that too. I think we have that same thing when if you see a fine sister with a white boy, and let's say you in the club, and she come by you gonna say something. You gonna say like, "Damn, what's up, no more with me?"
But we talking about accepting though. Now you might have an issue as far as acceptance, and the reason I think it's readily acceptable because I think black women are the most beautiful women on the planet.
I will concur.
And so when I see a white man with one, I really do believe that I can't really fault you because you really are about the most beautiful creature anyway. I can't really fault you. I may dislike it, but you chose from the top of the heap. So, okay, I can kind of get like Serena Williams. She married a billionaire, but even though I would love Serena, I'd love to take Serena home myself. When you see her with you, like
he can't handle all that, man.
In your mind, you saying
he can't handle all that. In your mind, you saying no way in the world he handling all that, man.
But $1 billion, he's got
that. He ain't handling it.
He still can't because she got her own money.
He ain't handling it.
He ain't handling it. Yeah, I bet you if they ever get divorced, the next one will be a brother.
Yeah, it got to be because she got the money now.
Oh yeah,
and I can accept it.
Oh yeah. She already got her own money. Serena probably
she ain't got no $1 billion.
She ain't got $1 billion. She ain't got $1 billion.
She got a couple millions. But she ain't got no billion.
But when you get to a certain level, there's less and less of us at the table.
Correct.
And so you're not able to see. Now, you'd almost have to go look out and find how many black billionaires do we have out there? About three. Right. It's not a lot of. If your standard is, I want a billionaire, well, unless you want Michael Jordan,
Yeah, you're going to have a short list.
Most of them are already married.
Yeah, so. Right. And they already got white women.
And they already.
You ain't gonna have no chance.
You don't have a chance. There you go.
Well, even saying it about Serena, she tried. originally she tried to do the brother thing.
She was with Common. She
was with LeVar Arrington first.
Drake.
Yeah. So she tried to do that, but.
So after all that, can you really understand her? I don't understand.
Well, I mean, I don't know, man. I think my thing is, like you said, there becomes a situation where you don't have a lot of things to pick from or choose from, and she's in a different world, man. She gets a chance to meet these, because I know at one point wasn't she dating like a director at one point, a producer that was.
I remember that.
Yeah, so
yes.
I think she's in California. She's in that world, and maybe the pickings can become kind of slim.
Right.
I definitely couldn't see her on any one of these reality shows. As that type of girl.
No.
But I mean, I'm happy for her. I mean, like I said, I would have loved for her to maybe marry some Nairobian prince, because she's on that level. She's on a level where she can get pretty much any guy that she wants.
Oh, absolutely.
Because of her status and
her beauty.
And her beauty.
I think she's
is,
beautiful.
Probably to me, the physique of a black woman. She takes the cake.
Oh, I think she is the most attractive female athlete out there today.
That's a big one.
Over
our girl that's here, Skylar. Skylar,
I'm a Serena fan, man.
That's Skylar fine.
I'm a Serena fan, man. I really am. I really am. I'll scroll through. TMZ will put that picture of Serena on the yacht or something like that.
Lord.
You gonna stop?
You gonna stop it?
You gonna stop? I mean,
it's just funny how white people have jumped on the booty bandwagon now.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with their white women once again emulating us, and they going out getting butt shots, and now beauty, whereas it used to be the string being. All of a sudden,
crazy. You grew up in the same era that I grew up.
Right.
And so I remember even like the song. They would look at the booties and be like, "Ooh, that's nasty."
Right.
And now, it's the going thing or the end thing.
It was always the end thing, but
for us,
right. But even for them, I thought it was in. I just think that they just tried to hide it. But now people like Kim Kardashian going to get shots, things like that. Now it's out in the open, and they can freely like it, and
not feel a certain way about it.
And not feel a certain way. You don't have to have this. You don't have to have this. This is nasty type vibe about it. Now
because
it's acceptable.
But see, that's another thing. That's another thing because it was black, and because the whole connotation of black being bad. Because I've had white dudes tell me before, man, like I've seen a very attractive girl and she's a Caucasian girl, and they're like, "Oh, she got too much ass, man." I'm like, "What?"
Y'all like Coach's white guy? Do the white guy one more time.
She got too much ass, Dad.
Too much ass, man.
Too much ass, man. Oh my God, it's like all over the place.
It's all over the place.
I don't know what to do with that.
I can't handle it.
Yeah, I can't handle it, man.
Same thing Serena's man is saying.
I can't handle it. No, he handle it. He doing something. He something. He doing not licking. Oh, there it is.
Oh, don't do it like that, Jay.
Don't do it.
Don't do it like that.
Thank you. Let's look at that. That's beautiful.
Boy. Okay, we got to take our eyes off the screen. We're getting caught up in here. Okay, but I think that it's more acceptable for them now, but they used to try to hide it. And I think that goes back to, and I'm sorry, I know everybody always say, well, Vincent always take it back to slavery days. Well, this is the thing. This is the thing. The white man always found that black sister attractive.
Oh, yeah.
And as we know, he would go in and violate her sexually when nobody else was looking.
Right.
So when he went back up and talked to his wife, there's no way I would like something like that.
But she was doing the same thing.
She was doing the same. But so they lying to each other.
Yeah, they lying to
each other. But what I'm saying is, so his whole thing was lie and deny his attractiveness to the black woman. He completely lied and denied about it while he was going out that way. Now the white woman knew when the kids came. She knew about the same color as you.
Yeah, Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson. He's the main one.
Right. So they used to lie about it, and I believe that lie persisted in their people throughout the generations.
You know what? It's so funny that you even mentioned that because I was earlier today. I was listening to I cannot think of the young lady's name, but she was talking about the consciousness of Caucasian people or white people dealing with slavery, that they had to deem us as less than humans and animals to be able to consciously do the things that they did.
Yes.
And so that's a great point, man, because You know, I think that love and that definitive love and wanting and envy has always been there. And they always tried to hide it or denigrate it in some type of a fashion, shape, form, or fashion. So, yeah, man, it's just that's an interesting thing. How I know for me, it's just interesting to see how the black culture, everything that I grew up on that was considered negative, wasn't good, now in this 21st century has become, you know, the greatest thing on earth. You look at rap music.
Right.
I mean,
they tried to ban it when we were young.
Tried to ban it, man. You know, and I used
to have this on the airwaves.
No, you can't do this. I mean, and I used to, definitely my listeners out there on my Facebook know, me and my brother, we used to put in Luke Skywalker, and we would ride through white neighborhoods bumping Luke, just to get a reaction from the folks. And one of the things I used to love to do is I would just pull up on old white people and call them nigger and spill off. Just to see their reaction.
I wish I would have had a picture just how that would look.
Just roll up on some old white people, and then just pull off on them. They just be in that shot.
You know how offended they were?
The audacity.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. But I do believe that black people are more accepting of interracial dating than white people are. Because, and I think it goes to what may come of it. For example, if a black man and a white woman have a kid, once you bring that kid home, that black grandparent, both of them, grandmother, grandfather, they accepting him, they loving him. Whereas on the other flip side of that, white people be like, we don't want your kids around.
You don't want the kids around. And that's
some deep hate, man.
I went to college with people like that, man.
Right.
Where when it was certain girls at my college that they had never been any type of interaction with other black people. There was nobody black in their town. And so when they got to college, they ended up dating a black dude, having a black dude as a boyfriend, and then couldn't take him home and end up having kids with them. And they've said that, it took them years before their family could actually accept the fact that, they had a black child, or, and obviously it's a black child. Even though we can use the mixed race term, that's a black child. And society is looked at as a black child. It is a black child. It is a black child. And black people are comfortable calling it a black child. I think now, would you be comfortable? Because I have a cousin. And interracial relationship, black. My cousin black, and she ended up having a baby by a white man. And if you look on the outside, you would think he was white. Blonde hair, blue eyes.
I have a cousin very similar.
Yeah, blonde hair, blue eyes. But he identifies with black.
Right.
And I've never heard anybody call him white. And I always wondered, like, do white people consider him being white versus him being black based off of what he looks like? You know what I'm saying? Even though he associates himself with being black,
They probably, because so many things are visual, they probably accept him as being one of them, and there may be a certain amount of white privilege that he's allowed because he does have that visual. Yeah. So
he's almost like the vampire that can walk in the
right, the vampire that can walk the light. You absolutely hit it. You absolutely hit it.
He's the vampire that can walk because he got a little privilege.
He's a day walker. He's a day walker. All right, so on that note, let's talk about Zeke. Let's talk about Zeke because, as we know, Zeke Elliott has recently been suspended by the NFL for 6 games for domestic abuse, domestic violence, and he wasn't charged. He wasn't convicted. The NFL did its own investigation, and based on their investigation, they came up with the result of guilty. Yeah. And he was suspended 6 games here recently. Now he's subject to appeal.
Guilty to public opinion.
And I think there is something to be said about this. But, Coach, I want to hear your take on it because, and just for the listeners to know, they outlined the abuse, and I'm going to give you how this happened. Let's say on a Monday, he abused her. On a Wednesday, he abused her again.
She came back.
And then on a Friday, he abused her again. my first question was, what was she doing there on that Friday?
You got your ass kicked on Monday.
Yeah.
What you back on Wednesday getting your ass kicked again? I just don't understand. That's
Then you coming back on Friday for more? You're a glutton for punishment.
Yeah. You liked it. I think you like that. That's y'all relationship. That's what y'all into.
You know, I had a friend of mine that mentioned people do not understand that sometimes a little bit of this rough stuff may have been what went on.
Yeah,
and
that might be what she was into.
And they actually bruised fairly easily.
Yeah.
And so he brought that. I hadn't even thought about that, but I wanted to get your take on it, though, Coach.
I think the whole situation to me seems a little fishy, and you outlined it perfectly by the fact that looking at the timeline of what happened, if the law system felt like it was something that could not be corroborated with the story, then I just don't understand why the NFL went back to say that, okay, even though that the law felt that they wasn't going to press charges, we deemed that you did something wrong, even though the story shows that her story didn't make sense.
And they found lies and inconsistencies.
They found lies, inconsistencies in the story. And so I honestly believe that it was a situation where they had to make an example for him. Right? They had to make an example for Zeke, even though they keep saying that all the incidents that happened with him lifting the girl's shirt up, the incident with the fight, with the driving. I think all of that came into play, and they were going to regardless have some type of a suspension. I just think that 6 game was almost a slap in the face to kind of say, hey, listen, we're going to punish you to the ledger of the law under player personnel or conduct. But the player conduct has nothing to do with the domestic violence policy, because the domestic violence is a guaranteed 6 games.
Right.
So if we didn't find him for domestic violence, and you're going to say it's for player conduct, it just didn't make. To me, it just really seemed like they were going to make an example of Zeke. And if there's any issue where you're dealing with a woman, and I've heard people say, well, because it was a white woman. That's what the reason. If it was another black woman, they might not even done anything. Or the fact that with the guy Josh Brown, with his wife, which was a white player with a white woman, they gave him 1 game of a suspension. But what came out was that diary, and the NFL is in a position now where if it's anything to do with a domestic violence case, they're going to suspend you 6 games.
I think that the NFL has pretty much been Barney Fife for about the last 10 years. They're not real police officers. They're not real lawmen. And they're conducting searches and seizures, and they're not qualified to do it.
Unlawful.
And so what's happened here is the NFL has been getting it wrong so much. They got it wrong in the Ray Rice issue. They got it wrong with Josh Brown. They got it wrong with Adrian Peterson. They've got it wrong. They've been getting it so wrong because the courts are overturning. When these people sue, I think Tom Brady, who might have been innocent as well, he's the only one whose conviction actually got upheld because Adrian Peterson's got reversed. Greg Hardy's got pushed down some games. The NFL has gotten it wrong so much, I agree with you, that they took their own sweet time to make sure that nothing else happened. They waited on something to happen.
Right.
And they used it as a mitigating factor because everybody who goes to New Orleans, you're going to see some tatas in New Orleans.
Yeah.
That is about as common as going for
getting some barbecue in Dallas.
You better believe it. You better believe it. I mean, it's extremely common, and that is not any kind of egregious act.
When the women go there, they go there because they know they're going to show some tatas.
Exactly. And that lady was not offended. That lady thought Zeke was her friend, and soon after that, they went to Florida together.
Yeah.
And it was no issue. So you're creating issues when there is none just because you wanted to punish the man.
Yeah.
And I stopped sort of calling it racially motivated only for one reason, and that reason is Ben Roethlisberger. Because Ben actually got 6 games as well, reduced to 4, and he was accused of sexual assault. They never charged. Similar incident.
Ben raped the woman in the bathroom.
But did he do it?
He sodomized the woman in the bathroom. And I think it was on numerous occasions that he had an issue with that.
But you would have to be a lunatic. Now, what we're saying if we say that is that we believe Ben Roethlisberger is a straight-up lunatic. If you go to a bathroom and you sodomize somebody just, within 12 minutes of meeting them, You are a lunatic.
Let
So
me-
something was up with that
Let me put
situation
it
as well.
this way. This is why I was talking about as once you get to a certain status, you become a target. And once alcohol is involved, man, you seem to lose the ambition or inhibition to make a solid judgment. So, and women understand that, you know, and I think that's the same thing with the Jameis Winston case, where she was attracted to his friend beforehand, and they were, you know, messing around in the car. He's, you know, doing things to her. And now he says, I'm going to meet my boy at the club, which is Jameis Winston, and she's like, the quarterback?
Right.
And so that whole situation goes on. And as an athlete or a person of some type of public status, you have to be so socially aware of these women have the upper hand in that situation. All a woman has to say is you did X, Y, and Z to her. They're gonna come in and arrest you. They're gonna do an investigation. It's gonna be a he said, she said type of situation.
And she always wins.
Well, I call it. You seen the movie Rosewood?
Yes.
I call it the Rosewood effect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the Rosewood effect. It was he was big and black. He was.
And he was guilty.
Yeah, and
He
he was guilty. Even though the white dude was the one that was really dealing with her. She knew the way for her to get out was to say he was big and black he was. And so I use that terminology to say that you really have to just be very careful, especially in this day and age with cameras and people being able to film things. You know, it's just it's almost a negative to just how society is, and that's how it is. And you have to understand that, hey man, you can put yourself in a bad situation, especially with these women, and if she says X, Y, and Z, this is what you're gonna have to deal with because of your money. And I give you a perfect example right now with Drake and I think it's Drake and Future. So Drake and Future are both getting sued by a woman for $25 million.
She said she was raped at their concert by someone that was employed by the venue to provide security.
Ain't got nothing to do with them.
Don't have nothing to do with them. She said
You know
they should have known.
They should have known. I'm doing my concert. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about
and this guy making $8 an hour. I was supposed to go through his background.
I was supposed to be like, hey man, I see you over there, man. Stop that. So I mean, so it's that's the society in which we live in this day and age where people will sue you for anything. And, you know, especially as an athlete, you have to just be very guarded to, you know, even in college and high school. And and there was something that I learned at a very early age. I learned this, you know, that type of situation. My life could have went, pew,
right,
because of a situation that, you know, dealing with a white girl, and she say something else happened.
Because she going to be right over you.
And I'm not knowing that her dad has a cheer in the Klan. I didn't know that.
Oh wow!
You know what I'm saying? I didn't.
You were taboo.
You know? Yeah. So her daddy got stake in the Klan, the cheer in the Klan. She looking, I'm getting back at daddy, but didn't know daddy was coming home. And
wow.
You know, and it's like in that quick of a moment, my whole life could have changed.
Oh no doubt.
At being 15 years old and not knowing it, and now it made me really understand what my dad was saying. You know, you better watch out for them girls.
Right.
You know, watch out for them girls.
And you mentioned Jameis Winston. I'm going to give you my take on a couple of things. I think sometimes we have party girls. You know, your mom used to warn you about the party girls. You have these party girls out there.
You ain't supposed to bring them home.
You're not supposed to bring them home. You're not supposed to get too involved with them because you know they don't mean you any good.
Right.
And so sometimes you have these party girls, and I think you don't know to what extent they quote-unquote party. Bachelor in Paradise, not too long ago, I've never watched the show, you guys, but I read TMZ pretty faithfully. And the black dude on there was with the white girl, and they tried to say that they felt like he was raping her. And they had video proof that she was the aggressor in the situation. And if she would have came out and said, oh yeah, he did. But what came out was the fact that she had snuck drugs, pills, everything else, and combined that with the alcohol she was drinking. And due to that, she was overly aggressive sexually towards this man, and something ended up happening. So you can't tell me you don't have that situation going on at these clubs.
At these college campuses.
At these college campuses. They taking drugs. They're doing Molly.
They're doing the Molly Alley.
They're doing the Molly. They're doing this, and they getting overly sexual with you. You guys end up going home. Something happens. Next thing you know, they're yelling rape. I think that may have been what happened to Jameis Winston.
I think what happened with Jamison, and correct. I think when she went back to her dorm room and started to talk with her other white friends, what happened?
They told her she was raped.
They told her she was raped. They told her and convinced her that it was a raping situation, and that's what happened. And she might have been drunk, intoxicated, and felt a little more free and wanted to be, because at one point, I think that, we used to call it, a party, running a party on her. And I think at one point he tried to call his homeboy in there, and she was like, no, I just want you. So she was self-aware to say she just wanted Jameson when she was messing around with that other guy in the first place.
Right.
So I say it again. I think when she, that is correct with the drugs and the alcohol and the whole environment.
You better be careful.
You better be very careful. And like I said, me having girls, I mean, you have to also look on the other side. Women, you have to be more responsible in that situation. You don't need to be getting drunk and toe up and being around a bunch of dudes. That's not
exactly right.
There was there's one thing in college I used to look for, and you can tell a girl that had a little training. If there was a cup sitting here, and if she drunk the cup, or you gave her a cup and she drunk it, you already knew that she ain't got no training.
Right.
A girl that if she see a cup with somebody pass, unless she saw you pour it,
she's not drinking.
She's not drinking. And so that was something that, I was attracted to women that were self-aware, and that was something like, man, she cool. She knows her surroundings, and you have to know your surroundings. I mean, that's just learning how to be safe in this world, because you got some creepsters, you got some rapesters, you got all that,
and you got people that take advantage of situations.
Yeah,
if you get inebriated, they're gonna take advantage.
Yeah.
I know, and to speak to what you're talking about, my daughter, when she got ready to go off to college, one of the biggest things I told her, I don't care if you're drinking orange juice. If you walk off and you leave your drink, you have left it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do not come back to it. It is gone. Yeah. Unless you can keep 24-hour set of eyes on that, you don't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. You got to be willing to walk away, because nothing in that cup is more valuable than you are, and there are things that can happen to you when that situation occurs. So,
food for thought, women.
Let's tell them, Coach. Go ahead and tell them, Coach. Let them know.
Listen, if you got a cup and you got something in your cup, you're drinking, keep your drink on you. Don't ever leave your cup sitting by your side, or don't ever just take a drink from a man and you ain't see what was, unless you saw the bartender pour it. That's just food for thought. Just be careful out there.
If Bill Cosby would do it,
if the pudding pop man would do it, anybody would do it. That's Mr. Pudding Pop.
All right, let's keep going, Coach. Let's keep going. Since we're talking about Zeke a little bit, and with his situation, you and I both believe that was a stretch to get this man 6 games.
Yeah.
We don't believe justice has been served in that situation. But as long as we're talking sports and justice, let's talk about that marijuana issue that you wanted to discuss. Give me your take on it.
Like I told you before, I had watched a show. Excuse me. I watched a show called Ballers. Great show. I think, honestly, as an athlete, I have the utmost respect for Mr. Dwayne Johnson, because he was able to take that platform of football and turn it into something awesome, man. And I think every football player would love to be able to kind of mimic that story of being able to, take from playing at University of Miami to now being one of the most highest paid entertainers in the business. And he surpassed all of the guys that was in front of him. Warren Sapp that ended up taking his position. And I think most athletes, their pinnacle is getting in front of the camera, being an announcer. This guy was able to kind of transcend. But there was an episode on there other night, and it was talking about cannabis. It was talking about marijuana. And one of the things that it was saying was they have been able to hone in on using marijuana for painkillers. Not necessarily to get you high. They said there's not a lot of HTC in it that would allow the person to actually get high. It's more or less as a pain management. I'm saying this: if that is to be true, that's something that really needs to kind of be homed in on, because the pain medicine that the FCA is providing us, or the government is providing us, does more harm to your body than something that is natural. And I think that's the thing that kind of kills me, because, nobody knows the pain that these guys are going through, collisioning with their bodies, their minds, And if there is an alternative to using those drugs, Percocets, Vicodin, then that's something that should be looked into more seriously. And also that's something that I think for the NFL or the NBA or any sport that they should take into mind that, okay, if we have an alternative, how about looking more into that alternative? The NFL should say, hey, listen, let's spend some money and really figuring out if this is a real good alternative to use. And I think that there's been such a negative connotation with marijuana that it's put athletes in situations where, you know, if it's better for me, Vicodin and stuff is more addictive than marijuana. And we hear about these guys all the time. You see these stories of guys getting addicted to Percocets, Vicodin, and the Oxycontins, and how it ruins their life because it's such an addictive drug.
Yes, it's an opiate.
It's an opium.
Right.
So you would do the same thing if it was cocaine or heroin. You would say, okay, all right, listen, you probably shouldn't be taking this drug in this dosage. And at the end of the day, I'm looking at it's really about these big drug companies, the real drug dealers.
The real drug dealers.
The real drug dealers, because they feel like it is a threat to their industry. And the fact that it's a threat to their industry, and that they would much rather you be addicted and doped up on their stuff versus you using something that is a little bit more natural.
And let's be honest, the drugs that they're prescribing are extremely dangerous. There is a man that was, he died in April of 2016 that we all know and love, Prince Rogers Nelson.
Yeah.
Prince died due to an overdose of an opiate because he had recently had hip surgery for both hips, and he had started taking these prescription drugs. And by taking those drugs, I'm not going to go as far as to say he developed an addiction, but what I will tell you is that he ended up overdosing on the opiates that had been prescribed to him.
I'll give you an example. A comedian said, I can't think the comedian said it, but he said that, he said, I ain't never met nobody that overdosed on no marijuana. He said, well, you pop in 30 of these damn Tylenols and see what hell happen to you.
Exactly.
You know, so, you know, if you can die over-the-counter Tylenol versus some, I think that there's something to be said about that.
I believe that you are 100% correct, Coach, in that marijuana has been proven to have medical benefits. It's why we allow cancer patients to utilize it to help manage their pain. So we allow them to do it because we know that it helps with their pain. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who writes for CNN all the time, he talks boundlessly about the benefits of pain management as it relates to marijuana use. He talks about how it's also a better sleep aid. He talks about a lot of things that our modern-day athlete can benefit from when it comes to marijuana usage. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not proposing this for everybody, but I do believe that if there is a medical benefit, this is something that definitely needs to be explored because we're losing them. The war on, see now, you know I'm about to go.
Brother Noopsy.
You know, I'm with you on the conspiracy theory. You got to remember, when it comes to the drug deal, they have no interest in creating a cure for anything. We need repeat customers in the drug business.
Yes, you do.
So there is no more curing. There is only treatment.
Yeah, there's no money in curing. Baby.
So we don't want this treatment, which you can go out here and get fairly inexpensively, nickel, dime, you know what it is. You can go out and get relatively inexpensively versus this over here, which is subsidized by your insurance company, which typically would cost $300, $400, $500. But now, if we get rid of it, now we're putting the insurance companies at a deficit.
And the stockholders.
And the stockholders. It's all about the money. I was talking to somebody just this morning. I said, you have to understand, the government's job is to maintain the status quo. That's what the job is, because they really don't want any significant change.
Oh, man.
You can say, you know what, if I could do anything, I'd want to get rid of drugs in society. No, they don't. The government doesn't want to get rid of drugs in society.
They want to get rid of the drugs that you're making money on.
Right. They can't profit from because you can grow it in your backyard.
Yeah. Now, we ain't trying to get rid of these other drugs that these big companies are using. And that's why I say it's so interesting. I had a friend of mine that was originally from, where is he from? He's originally from Bolivia. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that he told me a long time ago was just so funny that he was saying it. He said, the reason that other countries hate America is not because of the freedoms that they say they have. It is basically the fact that you guys are hypocrites. You do the same things that all these other third world countries do, but you're hypocrites about it. And you're a hypocrite about it, and you also make it seem like you have a high horse about it.
Oh, we justify it.
Yeah, we justify it. So, and that's why we look at the drug game. And you look at all of these prescription companies and all of these drugs, and you look at every other TV show now, they have a drug for whatever the heck you got. Your chin too big, we got a drug for it.
That's right.
Your ears too small, we got a drug for it. You don't like the way you smell, we got a drug for it. And so they're selling you on some type of drug every day. And I look at it as like you're selling us on all these drugs, but the natural stuff you don't want people to use because you can't make the same profit. And the reason you can't make the same profit is because you can't grow it like the other countries. Now, we kind of fast forward until today's society. The manufacturing of these miracle marijuana, and there's a monopoly on most of them now. There's a monopoly where very rich people have invested money, and now they have these very rich grow houses, and now it's becoming more socially acceptable because now you figured out a way that you can make money off of it.
Right.
You know, so and like you said, it really comes down to money.
Government's job is to create. What I was telling them was, you could even take crime, for example. They don't want to get rid of crime because you got to understand, because of crime, you have police officers, you have judges, you have attorneys, you have bailiffs, you have stenographers. All of these people are dependent. The penal institution, Lord knows, they're sitting out here farming the prisoners off for work at just about absolutely no benefit to them. And they're exploiting them completely. So you got to understand, you have to have crime in America.
Yeah,
it's big business.
Man, jails are big
business.
You know, jails.
So
are
we're not
big
trying to get rid of crime. No.
And then when we can really look at it, you know who they want to put in jail.
Absolutely,
you know what I'm saying?
absolutely.
You know who they want to put in jail. And I don't know if you've seen this show, Snowfall.
No, I didn't.
You should watch it, man. Awesome show. And it's really showing three facets of when the CIA used cocaine and infused cocaine in California with the whole Ricky Ross movement. But it kind of just shows you that whole movement of why they use the money, and then looking at the CIA part of what they wanted to do, and then also looking at the war and being able to funnel that money in the Nicaraguan war. Just a great show on three different levels. But this is one of the things that I was talking with my wife about. I said, it's so funny. I said, you look at all these other sects of communities, the Jewish community, you look at other communities where, war crimes or things against them or their society. I said, whatever. I said, now we are all aware that the CIA used cocaine, flooded L.A.,
and New York,
like and they use this money to funnel or fund a war in Nicaragua. You all know that. That's public record. You can find it anywhere. The CIA did it. The files are out. Why have they never did any type of retribution to the people that were affected by that? Because when the crack movement happened, the crack movement changed the whole dynamics of the inner city of L.A.
Right.
It changed the whole dynamics of the inner city of New York,
right,
Washington D.C. You have these, you had crack babies and women, doing God knows what, and men doing God knows what for that drug. But there's never been any type of public apology or acknowledgement or apology, and to say, hey, listen, for we're going to retribution for the families that were victimized by this drug. And I just thought it was very interesting, in that whole concept of, just the perception of our value in this society, man.
Well, for 400 years, we were enslaved. There was never any retribution. There were never any reparations given to us. Now, we've paid reparations to other countries.
Oh, yeah.
We've paid reparations to the Jews. They've had reparations behind the Holocaust. We have never received any type of reparation. And I hear people talk all the time that it's crazy for you guys to expect reparations. No, what I just want is what was promised. You give me that 40 acres and a mule, and you multiply that by and give me a cost of living adjustment on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, it would be the whole economic change, though, and that's what we go back to, of saying that this society has a perceived place for us. You know, has a perceived place, and if that were to happen, then you would have to change. That would drastically change that perception. That would drastically change that economic structure of where we could go and where we would live. Who are you gonna have in the ghettos now?
I heard someone say not too long ago that if we were just allowed to collect our proper royalties off of our contributions to just music, as an industry, black people, just from what they've been able to generate musically, just the music talent, there would be no poverty in Black America.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
But they need it.
Oh, you got to have poverty. Like I say, government's job is to maintain the status quo. That's why you have a two-party system, so that when this party tries to make changes, this party stops it. When this party tries to make changes, that party stops it. Because the whole job is to keep things as they are.
We want order.
Yeah,
they want.
That's right. Poor people need to stay poor. Rich people need to stay rich.
Man.
We need to maintain the status quo.
Some of them slip through the cracks. That's okay, as long as it's not in masses.
Right.
It's not in masses.
And as long as if you do slip through the cracks, you are benefiting one of those other rich people. You can, LeBron James, you can do it as long as the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers is getting that larger portion.
Yeah, he's getting the larger of the portion. As long as you're getting 20%,
it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
As long as that 80% is going to where it rightfully should go in their minds.
And speaking on LeBron James and guaranteed contracts, NFL, NBA. Let's segue, Coach. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, man. I mean, I am just really. I'm happy for the brother Steph because I think he's kind of set that new marker of money, and it's somebody that looks like us making what $200-something million.
238 or 246.
Oh my God! I mean,
it's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. And that's just a ridiculous number. But at the same time, I think, we talked about earlier TV contracts, and he has the ability, and these guys have the ability to really change the game. And NFL players are, kind of upset and mad that, they're not seeing that type of money. The only way that an NFL player would ever see that money is, first of all, they have to be together. And you have to hold out, because at the end of the day, the product has to be played on the field. If they were to hold out and say, we're not going to do anything else until we start to make that type of money, that's the only way it's going to happen. But you can't get all those guys on the same page to be able to hold out with these contracts.
Now, 30 years ago, you had the 87 season, the strike season. The problem with the NFL versus the NBA is that in the NFL, we so frequently cheer the jersey. Whoever you put in it, we're going to cheer for them or we're going to hate them, however it is, but we're about the jersey. In the NBA, it's more, because they don't have helmets on, you can see the face, it's more about the player. It's more of a player-driven game. So I think it's harder for NFL players to hold out, number one, because we saw it in 87, they went and got replacement players.
But it was a different game, Coach. I think in this day and age, with the money that's being thrown, because in the 88, the NFL was nowhere near the conglomerate mega power that it is on a world scale that it is now. The money is out there, but what they understand is, with the owners versus the players, the unity is not there.
You got to have a strong unity.
You know what I'm saying? The unity is not there. So if this person is they're offering you $50 million with, and one thing about the NFL, it's not guaranteed. It's not a guaranteed contract.
I have no idea. And I understand there's a higher risk of injury, which is why we should have higher guarantees.
There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee in the NFL.
There are some guarantees.
Well,
signing bonuses are guarantees,
you
and
can
then certain amounts of guarantees on a
annual
basis.
But the contract aspect. Let's say if I got $60 million over a 2-year span, you can still cut me in.
I don't get the second year.
Yeah, you can still cut me at any given time. Now I'll get my guaranteed money, but I won't get paid that rest of that money if you cut me from that team.
That's exactly right.
So the thing is, I understand the NFL players are a little salty because they understand how much money is being distributed in the NFL. But like I said before, there's a 53-man roster.
It's hard. You got to slice the pie.
Yeah, you got to slice the pie. You got to pay more people. But the main thing comes down to being able to hold out, and if they can hold out long enough, then you would have the opportunity to make that big money. Now, the next guy that's going to come up, you're going to see a crazy contract. It's going to be the Cousins kid. If Cousins comes out and performs, because he got another 1-year contract, I think, for like $30-something million, and they're going to have to pay him if they win. If they win, they're going to have to. He will be the guy that has the ability to break the bank to maybe set that benchmarker for those crazy type of contracts. But we'll see. We'll see if it happens.
Well, whenever you have a world where Otto Porter makes more than Aaron Rodgers, something's probably wrong. Something's probably wrong. Yeah. Otto Porter makes more than Aaron Rodgers. So I would tell people in the NFL that there's definitely something amiss with this situation.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, like you say, the numbers are a piece of it, and I do agree with you. There has to be unity within the union, because in '87 we saw players crossing the picket line. They were not unified. And one of the problems with NFL players is because the roster is so large and so many people are on guaranteed minimums. I'm sorry, they're on minimum contracts, not guaranteed. But they only are making $600, $700, $1 million or less. There are a lot of people, because you have your top end money, and then you have your few middle guys, and then you have
the rest of your roster is going to be built with guys that are making the minimum base.
And those guys really can't sustain extended holdouts. Mm-hmm. See, that's part of the problem too. I can remember. I'm trying to think about who the player was. There was a holdout. It might have been Tony Dorsett here in Dallas.
Okay.
There was an extended holdout. And, Tony should have made a lot more money. But during the holdout, he had taken out a loan from the Dallas Cowboys right before the holdout started. And they pretty much told him during the strike, hey, you better report or we're going to call the loan. Part of that loan is you getting paid, paying us back. If you don't pay us back, then, we're going to catch you in default.
Yeah. So
these NFL players don't, especially at the bottom of the roster, they don't make that big money. They don't, the bottom of the roster of an NBA player, I mean, you're probably still bringing in $4.5–5 million.
Yeah.
The bottom of the roster of an NFL player, you only bringing in $700–800 million.
Well, the thing about that even is, like you talked about, you have your big wigs, the guys that have the money, versus the ones that don't. So that's what I've always said. Even we talk about the kind of segue into, people are now saying that, oh man, because of what happened with Colin Kaepernick, that all black players should strike, and I totally agree that if you want to hurt if you want to hurt the empire, you have to hurt the empire in its pockets.
Right.
Now, the guys like Aaron Rodgers, or let's look at black players. Let's look at Cam Newton. These guys that have some money that's got to that second contract, because that's what you really want to do is get your second contract. They can take that fall. It's those guys that making $225,000, but they're living on a $500,000 budget. They're overdoing it, and so they can't miss those games.
Can't miss those games.
So it's a way it can be done. The way it could be done is if those that are on top with the top heavy money could put all that money together and say, hey, listen, we'll put X amount of money up. We'll have that money in basically an account, and so that you will still get paid the money that you're due versus the millions of dollars that we put together. And but that has to be unity. That requires trust and unity, which historically we have not had in the NFL game or any game or anything dealing with money and us. That has always been our biggest divider, is the money. And that's how they've been able to control the situation based on the money. Because I'll give you $50 million, but you got to get your people together.
You know what I'm saying? Donovan McNabb. That's the way it happened. You know what? Speaking on that, one of the things that I will say that I do love about LeBron James, and everyone knows that, hey, when it comes to the Michael Jordan and LeBron comparison, I'm on the Jordan side.
Yep.
But when it comes to making an impact in the NBA, LeBron James single-handedly gave the power back to the players. The power's in the players' hands in the NBA. Yeah. They decide where they want to go now. Yeah. They get these no-trade clauses now. The NBA player is the most powerful player in sports today, and that is all due to LeBron James. In the NFL, we may need that transcendent athlete.
Who could be that? Because it ain't no black brother.
It's not going to be Cam Newton. For a while, I thought it could be Cam Newton.
It ain't going to be.
But it's not going to be Cam Newton. Cam Newton.
He's going to have to look like Brady. He's going to have to. The NFL has been historically set up where the quarterback is the face of the league.
Right.
You know, the only guy I think that would have that ability to do so, and hopefully, would be a Dak Prescott or somebody like that, where you're the quarterback of a team that's very successful. You look like us, and now you can use this opportunity to
enact change.
Because in the NFL, it's been Peyton Manning,
right?
Tom Brady. Aaron Rodgers. It hasn't. We haven't had that type of face of the league. We are not really the face of the NFL. Now we might make up 70 to 80% of that league, but we're not really the face of that. Face of the league has always been held by
the quarterback.
And historically, that quarterback has
been the white quarterback. Right. And players like Russell Wilson, Cam Newton, they are not willing to rock the boat.
Well, they don't want to rock the boat because they don't want to mess up their money.
Right.
It's funny, man, how money does that to you.
Right.
Because as much as it is an allure to get, it also becomes the thing that controls you as well.
And it controls your decision making.
Yeah, it controls your decision making.
Because I thought Cam Newton was in a position really to speak out on some of the racism in the NFL, especially because he takes unnecessary shots. He's not as well protected in the pocket. I thought that he was in a perfect position really to stand up and say some things, but completely shied away from it. And it's not just the contract you have; it's also that shoe deal you have.
Yeah.
It's
all these people that are invested in your money, and people are invested in you, and when somebody says they're gonna take that away, what's your response? How are you going to be controlled by that money and the people that you got to take care of? Like I said, you're taking care of so many people in your family, and you got X, Y, and Z going on, and so that becomes a major factor in your decision making on how you. We always say we want to have X and Y and Z with money, but it always comes with a cost. There's kind of a statement that I always like to use is everybody wants to be the boss until payday.
Hey, I like that one. I haven't never heard that. I like that one. But I think, Coach, you outlined it perfect. I think that there's going to have to be unity from the NFL players. Their association, their players' union is going to have to be strong. They're going to have to pretty much look the owners in the face and say, we're not accepting anything less than these particular demands. And sure enough, please take the power from Roger Goodell that he currently has, so he cannot victimize players like he just did Zeke Elliott here in Dallas.
Yeah, please, man. It has to happen, but like I said, I don't. Maybe not in our day and age, but I mean, hopefully, sometime, it does happen. I just don't see it happening because, the money has always been the divider.
Right. Now, as long as we're talking about Cowboys, Coach. I know we're getting together in a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So one of the things that I want to get from you, Coach, is what is the rest of the season going to look like for the boys?
It's going to be interesting, man. I mean, a lot of people are talking about that offensive line, and we don't realize that we lost 2 offensive linemen off that starting offensive line. We got one guy that left in free agency and another guy that retired, which is still free. Mm-hmm. It's going to be big, man, and we really got to see what's going to happen with the defensive line is we probably got the worst defensive line in the NFC. And anybody would know about thinking about football.
I agree with that assessment.
Is if your D9 ain't strong, it's going to be hell for your cornerbacks. And
Right.
you can have a subpar defensive backfield, but if your defensive line is getting after the quarterback, it lessens the time that the quarterback has to throw the ball. And I don't know, man. I'm hoping if we can finish 3-3, if we can still get 3 wins, I think we'll be on the up and up.
While Zeke is gone?
While Zeke is gone. I mean, we got some good running backs. You know, you got the Morris kid. You obviously you got McFadden. You got this other kid, Rod Smith, which is Jalen Smith's brother, who runs pretty good. But it's going to be hard. I think that energy in which that Zeke and Dak bring, it's just going to be a lot more pressure on Dez. A lot more pressure on Dak to be successful early, because if they're not, we can easily be, 1-5, 2-3, and now he comes back, and now the added pressure, he's coming back, and now he has to save
the team
us.
is pressing.
Pressing.
Well, I hope that's not the case, Coach. I'm hoping that.
I'm hoping too.
I'm hoping.
But I'm a realist. I'm gonna look at every side. I think with the schedule that we play, to be honest, if we can be 3-3, and from that, and obviously anything after that, 4-2 or 5-1 would be great. But if we can end up at 50% or 50-50, and we can go to the second half of the season and do something, then I think we'll be on the right track.
I am praying that we are at least 3-3 then, Coach.
Yeah,
I know what to be looking for.
Yeah, we got to be 3-3. And I'll be honest with you, as a Dallas Cowboy fan, I'll be honest with you, I don't see Super Bowl now. I don't see, and when we have to be real with ourselves, Coach.
I guess I'm not a realist. I guess I'm a dreamer, Coach. I'm a dreamer, Coach, boy.
We can't really believe that. I think 2 to 3 years down the road, then we should be thinking that Super Bowl or bust.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, we are based on at the end of last season. Well, let me ask you this. At the end of last season, do you believe we are better or worse than we were at the end of last season?
I would say we are even.
We're even. So that means that we're a playoff team, in your opinion, right there with Green Bay.
Correct.
Right there with Green Bay means right there with Seattle.
The reason that I say we're right there or at the same is because, first of all, one thing about football is injuries, man. So we don't know what's going to happen
at the end of the season.
We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. It's the unknown. Injuries become the unknown. I think there's more film on Dak. So some of the things that he was able to do well last year, teams have film on him. He surprised a lot of people. He surprised a lot of people. And then we start to get that momentum. And once that mo starts, it's really hard to stop. I don't think he's going to be able to sneak up on anybody this year. And so the film will be out. They will have things and packages and things that he didn't do well last year, and defensive coordinators will be able to accentuate those things that he didn't do well and kind of get on them. So it's really going to be, and I think that's the thing that really hurts us by not having Zeke, is because he had the ability to hand the ball off, take some pressure off, and it wasn't all on his shoulders. In this first 6 games, it's going to be on him and Dez's shoulders to make the offense go.
Now, I think that when it comes to Dak, I obviously believe that he is going to be better than he was last year when it comes to reading defenses. But at the same time, last year I look at a situation where he didn't have Dez for the whole season. Dez got injured. And even though he may not throw 4 interceptions, the expectation is that he's going to throw a lot more. He only threw, and looking at the tape, he only threw 13 interceptable passes last year. That's a phenomenal number.
That's a great number.
Yeah. He's very good as far as decision-making goes. The New York Giants and the Green Bay Packers threw a lot of blitzes and mixed up a lot of coverages on him.
So the teams that he had problems with were
the great defense, or the good defenses.
And like I said before, in our conference, Washington got better. Line.
Because that Jonathan, what is his name from Alabama? Allen?
Yeah,
he's a monster, bro.
So Philadelphia got better on the D-line, and Giants got better on the D-line. And so all of these teams are going to look at that Philadelphia tape. And I think that Philadelphia game is where he made a name for himself. But we can agree to say for the first 3 quarters, he didn't do nothing. Right. It really became down to that 4th quarter and then we went into overtime. So I think they're going to get after him and make him make this quick decisions.
But I think he'll be better this year. I think he'll be better.
And I hope, I really do. I think that he has to be better this year.
Yes.
For them to be successful. He can't be where he is. But at this point right now, he's, we don't know. It's preseason. So we don't get a real
And coaches figure out what you don't do well. Mm-hmm. And then they want to put you in a situation where you're doing the things that you cannot do. So you have to continuously improve and get better. You have to study film. You have to make sure that your game is tight. But he seems like the young man, the type of guy that's going to do those things.
Yeah, and he could be, or we talked about earlier, he could become the face of the NFL, especially if he wins the Super Bowl.
Oh, if you're the Dallas Cowboy quarterback and you
and
win
you
the
win
NFC,
Super Bowl,
you win the Super Bowl,
yeah,
you are automatically the face of the NFL.
Because Brady is coming to the point where he's exiting out.
Dak got next.
Yeah, and so it's going to be on Dak to have next. And some of those other young guys, I just don't see, the guy from not Washington, but Cousins. But Cousins don't have he don't have the weapons around him.
Yeah,
he don't have the weapons around him.
Well, Carson Wentz is a good.
Is another guy.
He's a good.
I don't think he had. I still don't think he doesn't have the weapons we have offensively.
And as far as young guys go, Cam is still out there. He's not very old just yet.
Well,
Angela, but I think Dak got next.
I think Dak he's definitely next up. He would be definitely the next up in line as far as being the face.
Derek Carr, maybe. I guess Derek
He's
Carr
another guy. We'll see what happens when them jokers go to Vegas, though.
It's gonna be party time.
Whoever put that deal together, boy, you a hell of a boy right there. To be able to get them jokers in Las Vegas. I lived in Vegas for 4 or 5 years, man. So that's going to be interesting to see an NFL team in Vegas where it's about accessibility. Because Vegas is also it's legalized, the use of recreational use of marijuana.
Oh, really? I thought it was Colorado and what is it? Colorado, Washington, and
Las
Nevada?
Vegas is in the game.
Nevada's in the game.
Yeah, Las Vegas is. They got dispensaries.
Okay.
So it's
a lot of temptation in the Sin
City.
City.
And like I say, the NFL is in their own little world. They have their own jurisdiction that they can come into an environment, come into a city, or come into a state and say, if you're gonna work for our company, you can't do what every other citizen does. What happens when it's off season? You're still a citizen of that place,
right?
So it's just gonna be interesting. I'm rooting for him because I think Las Vegas it's going to be a great thing to have an NFL team there. But we're gonna get some great stories on ESPN and TMZ.
On TMZ,
oh yeah,
we're rocking and rolling.
Oh, we're gonna get some TMZ, Coach.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up, Coach. You have any final thoughts you want to share with us?
Oh man, like I said before, I think it's very interesting. Great topic that we talked about with interracial dating today. I think that one of the things is just kind of knowing yourself and what you will accept in life. And I'm glad that we're getting to the point where we're more socially acceptable of those things. And one of the things that a guy told me one time, he said that when you're uncomfortable, that's a good place because it's allowing you to learn to be yourself uncomfortable. But I don't have much, man. All I got to say is, hey, if you get a chance to get on my website, dysatx.org is Development of Young Student Athletes. We're out there really trying to help the kids out. Also, shout out to another really good friend of mine, is a black business owner called Blessed Touches Auto Shop out in the Euless area. Was a great supporter of DYSA. So if you get a chance to go out there, if you want a great car wash or a great detail, definitely go out there to Blessed Touches Auto Shop. And so that's all I got, man. I can't wait for the next segment.
Let's do it.
We're going to get wild with it.
Well, we want to thank you all for joining us at the Coach's Corner, Hero High Vibe Media Marketing Group Network. Coming up on tomorrow at 8:30 to 10 o'clock, join us for Straight from the Hip. That's a new Monday show. That's extremely hilarious. They have a wonderful time there. On Tuesday from 6 to 8, we have a teen show called Vibe With Me. And then from 8 to 10, as you know, the Black of the Berry. They always have a good time on that show as well. Then on this Wednesday from 8:30 to 10, we're going to get into sports rehab. We got to get you on for sports rehab.
I got to come on out there.
You need to come out here and have some fun with us. That'll be myself and your host, JC, Jimmy Clark, Sports Genius. And then also on Wednesday, we have the Teen Scene. It's a teen summit. Goes on at Brick House Lounge. Please come out if you're able to. Thursdays from 9 till 11, also at Brick House Lounge. A Man's Point of View, that starts live at about 9 o'clock. So come out. They typically have pretty good topics. And you get to hear men talk about the things that men like to talk about. So they have a wonderful time there, too. And then from Sundays 4 to 6, you know it's going to be the Coach's Corner. But up next, Sundays 6 to 8, we know who's coming. This is a Suave Radio Show. He's live. He's happening. He's going to be what that is. Let's go! All right, we're going to have it coming up for you next, the Suave Radio Show. And we out. This is the Coach's Corner. Peace.
Hey, Kimbo.
What up, y'all?
What's up? You ready for this new school year?